was only yesterday that Lorna and I were walking through the garden to see if any of our spring bulbs were poking their smiley faces above the soil, and while we were doing that, something caught our attention. It was this single flower from our Camellia black lace, and as you can see from the rest of the buds that are still very tight, this is approximately 4 to 6 weeks early. And it begged a question that many of our viewers have not been asking, and that question is this: when is the best time of the year to plant your camellias? Well, it's not quite as straightforward as you would first imagine. Now, there are just two ways that you're likely to buy your camellia plants. The first is going to be established in a pot so the root ball is nice and tight and effective. And the second is going to be that you have bought yourself a field grown camellia, and the likelihood there is that it's been lifted, you've got a loose root ball, it's been wrapped up in some hessian. And depending which one you've bought will depend on the best time of year to plant it. Now, field grown specimens are going to be lifted at a time of year when the plant is dormant to minimize the impact and stress on the plant. So you're looking at really from about when the weather turns cold. So down here on the south coast, you're probably looking at around about November, December time, but you're looking at end of autumn, early winter, once the plant has effectively stopped growing. So they'll lift it, they will wrap the root ball, and then they will sell it to you. Sometimes they will sell it to you just with the wrappings on the root ball, and sometimes it'll be just put in a pot quite loosely. But either way, you want to plant that as soon as you possibly can. You definitely want that in the ground prior to the spring arriving. Generally, the soil will be still a little bit warm. That will allow some new root growth to occur before the spring starts. But what you don't want to do is have it planted when the plant is growing, because with a damaged root system, because the roots will be damaged when it's being lifted in the first place, once it warms up and it starts to release moisture and water from the leaves, then the chances are that plant will dry out because it does not have an effective root system to keep it alive. Now, technically you could plant a container grown camellia at any time of year, but the best time of year, which is the question we're asking, will be the spring and also the autumn. Now, the reason why we choose the spring and the autumn is because the days are not so hot, the sun is not so bright, and the plant has a chance of producing new roots into the surrounding soil, so it can take up water as necessary. Now, we tend to avoid the winter simply because the ground can be frozen and then you just can't physically get a hole made to put your plant in it. And we tend to avoid planting in the summer because it's very difficult for the new root system to get into the surrounding soil to get moisture if you're during a period of drought. So it's down to you to pop out and water it. So best time for planting pot grown camellias: spring, autumn. Now, like people, plants need water to survive, and whereas we can get a cup of water and drink it, the plants need to bring it into itself somehow and have it go all the way around the plant, otherwise it won't survive. It will just dry out and die. So how does it do it? Well, there are two effective drivers of that. That is root pressure, where the root kind of chemically forces water up through the plant, and then at the other end, on the leaves, mostly underneath the leaves, you have the stomatal cells where water is transpired or lost through the leaf. So this sort of like movement of water out of the leaf and being pushed up from the root system is how the water is transported all the way around the plant, which is why it needs a constant supply in most cases of water, but not too much, because if it's waterlogged the roots can die, and we'll save that bit for another day. Water enters the plant through the roots into the xylem, and the xylem is throughout the plant and transports water everywhere. Now, the problem is that the part of the root that takes in the water is nothing more than a single root hair, and that single root hair is one cell. So they are easily broken and will become broken when they are lifted from the ground. So when you're buying field grown stock that has been lifted, a lot of the fine hairs have been damaged. And because those fine hairs have been damaged, until it grows some new ones, it can't then take up much water into the plant. And here lies the problem. When the day warms up and the sun is shining on your plant, the plant will heat up, and to prevent it from being damaged through heat stress, it releases water through the stomatal pores. Now, if the roots are damaged, it cannot replace that water through the root system, so the plant effectively dries out. And that is what we're trying to avoid by planting your plants at the right time. So to conclude, field grown plants have been lifted, have damaged roots. You need to plant them in the spring before it gets too hot, to give the roots time to establish before the plant needs to bring water in to keep it from getting too hot. Hot grown plants, although they have a viable working root system, do not be tempted to tease all the roots apart, because you do exactly the same problem. You'll break all the fibrous fine head roots. You plant them in the spring and you plant them in the autumn. The reason why you try and avoid the summer is because the plant is going to get very hot. It does not have an established root system that is growing into the wider soil in order to bring in the water to help keep it cool. Oh, in the winter it's just too cold, and the ground could be frozen. So there you have it. Those are the best times of year to plant your camellia, depending on how your camellia has been cultivated. Hopefully I've got that science right. If I've not got any of that right, then please amend me in the comments. We would love to hear from you. I like being corrected. Anyway, thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Try not to kill off your plants in the meantime. I see you are still there. Well, of course you are. Only the very best gardeners would watch the video to the very end just to see if I had something extra to say. And indeed I do. I have a few interesting facts about camellias, but before I start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to click like. Don't forget to comment. We would love to hear from you. And if you want to be notified whenever we publish a new video, then click on the notification bell. Anyway, some facts about camellias. Did you know that the hybrid tea rose, very popular group of plants last century, is so called because both the blooms and the foliage are reminiscent of the camellia tea plant? Fact number 2. The leaves in your tea leaves are the leaves of Camellia sinensis, so you are drinking camellia juice, as it were. Fact number 3, it's not really a fact. My favourite camellia is the Camellia Desire. So if you're looking to plant just one camellia, then that is one I thoroughly recommend. It is absolutely gorgeous, a real cracker. Unfortunately, I haven't got one in my garden. Anyway, see you in the next video. Bye bye.